Thanks so much for taking time to watch this video. And especially I thank you for taking time to invest yourself in understanding more about our university passage this year and to integrate it into your daily living. And as you know, there are resources available to you. I hope you'll take advantage of the small group questions, of the context statements that have been written, all for you. Today we're focusing on John chapter 10, verse 7. Jesus says, "I am the gate for the sheep." And it's wonderful to have Asia Martija with us from the School of Education. And I really appreciate, Asia, you're taking time to join us and share a little bit about this passage from your experience, from your wisdom, your reflectful thinking on it, so that we together can perhaps learn a little bit about it and thereby walk as a Christian community more in reflecting Christ. So thanks so much for taking time to join us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah. We focus today on John chapter 10. So as you read this passage, Jesus says, "I am the gate for the sheep." So what are some new insights that have come to you as you reflect on this particular passage?
I would say that reading through, I found profound insights, maybe that I quickly skimmed over prior to reading in the past. But one piece that really stood out to me, and I'm sure it was purposeful in the university's thoughts for choosing the I am passages, but really that identifying piece that he identified himself, Jesus identified himself in the same manner in which God the Father identified himself to Moses. And that I am statement is so profound in my opinion, because what he's doing is he's acknowledging the deity, that he is God, and the pre-existence of Christ, which is a notion that I don't feel we really take a lot of time on. That Jesus existed before, that he always existed, that he is part of the Trinity and the uncreated God, and that in and of itself can be enwrapped in an eternity, I feel like.
Sure. So
and
you take that from the present statement, the I am, that it's in the present tense. Is that what I understand you to say?
Yes.
Yeah.
I take it as a title when he says I am, not just an introductory statement, as I would say I am Asia Martija, but he is saying I am identifying his name. I am just as his Father did. I believe that everything that Jesus said is purposeful, and I believe that that was thought through to introduce his deity.
Very important connection there with the Old Testament reference. Asia, what about the particularity of Christ's allusion to the fact that he is the gate?
I feel like it is an identifier to his people, that's his relationship to us and our relationship and tied to the Father, that just as the sheep would go into the sheepfold, there was one entrance, and anyone that would access the sheepfold by any other means, he identified as a thief, only coming to steal, kill, and destroy. And so he identifies clearly with the people and likened himself unto the gate in which the shepherd could only make his way to. And I feel like that's one, his promise of protection to us. But in the same, it's also paralleling the statement that he is the way, the truth, and the life, that no other could come to God the Father but through him.
Yeah, so there's a singularity there, and you know, obviously we live in a day when everybody's trying to make multiple ways, kind of a pluralism, but here Jesus is saying he is the gate, and your connection is a kind of a singularity. That seems to be important in your thinking.
Absolutely, and I believe he is unapologetically making these declarative statements that, one, he is God,
yes,
and two, he is the only way. And I think that those statements being professed before the people unapologetically is something that is so transcendent of any other prophet or anyone that has come before, but he is able to stand before them and say, I'm God and I am the one way.
Yeah.
And that's hugely profound.
Pretty powerful allusion and a pretty powerful impact, especially in a culture today when probably it's very evident to all of us that both of those important assertions that you've identified are really under pretty significant attack, and yet APU is pretty committed to both of them. Absolutely. Obviously. So tell me, how does this translate into your own personal life. How does that make a difference in your work? How does that make a difference in your own life as a part of this Christian community?
Well, one thing I think that's clearly defined is that Jesus knew his identity in and out, and it was marked by what God the Father called him and placed him as such. And so in the same, I feel like something that not just a generation, but I think it does transcend generations. I think it's cultural. I think it's the issue with identity and how we identify ourselves. And that's something that I don't want to compromise. I don't want to be marked by what the world says. I want to be marked by what my King says about me. And we do live in a different culture, and it could be fluctuating, ever fluctuating, depending on what our status is at work, what our earthly relationships are like. Not that those are unimportant, but at the same time, keeping in mind truly what our identity is. And I think that's something that Jesus was able to profess before all people, because he knew who he was and who he is today.
Yeah, so when you go to work and when you relate to other people around this campus, your personal identity in Christ really becomes a foundation for all that you do here. Am I hearing you right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and frankly, that is also a subject that seems to be under great attack in our culture, where people are tempted to define themselves based upon what they do.
The problem is it's variable. And so if we are marked by what we do and what others say about us, it's ever changing and will just be blowing in the wind. I mean, I think the Lord warns us about that. And I don't say this in a daunting manner. I say it in an encouraging way, that I know who I am before the Lord, and I believe that's his plan and purpose for all of us, that we are called to be with him and to love him with our whole heart, mind, soul, and strength, unapologetically known that we are children of God and we're marked by him to be set apart.
Does that make a difference in how you relate to other people?
It does.
Yeah, in what ways? I mean, what kinds of things begin to happen when you have that confidence in your identity?
I believe that it's a different motivational piece. It's something that is beyond myself. He has taken us to be a part of that. Not everything is centered around us, but we get to be a part of what the Lord is doing, that his kingdom's coming to earth, and he wants us to be a part of that, that he wants to dialogue with us daily, that he includes us, that he has written a book for us so that we can know his words and his ways. And even as Jesus said, my sheep know my voice. And to me, I take that not only as a declaration, but I take that as a moment to properly assess myself. Well, am I hearing your voice? I know I'm your sheep. So if I'm not, what's the divide here? And how can I continually get closer to you? Because as he said, the first commandment first, to love your Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, as I stated before. But he said the second commandment is likened to love his people. Yes. And to love them well. And so in the workplace, whether supervising or serving, it's the same. I feel like he has established an upside down kingdom, that the greatest will be least, least will be greatest.
Sure, sure. So really in our work here as a Christian community, going back to what you said earlier, finding our identity in the fact that Jesus is God, Jesus is with us, he is the only way, and in him we define our identity. And then, irrespective of the positions that we hold, we relate to one another with that kind of dignity and understanding that that identity is foundational for all of us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Asia, thanks so much for taking time. Thanks so much for thinking, reflecting, and sharing with us your thoughts on this particular passage. I really appreciate it very much.
Thank you, as do I.
Yeah. Thanks so much for taking time to watch this video. I hope that each time you do this, you're inspired, encouraged, and motivated to take steps forward in reflecting Christ as a part of this Christian community at APU. Take advantage of the resources. Perhaps you'll see Asia on the sidewalks, or you may have interface with her in various meetings or times. I hope you'll take an opportunity to talk with her about this passage and some of the things she said, and then talk with others over lunch, and allow the university passage to find an integrated part in your life, as well as weaving together our hearts as a Christian community here at APU. May God bless you richly.